Hi, my name's Dr. P. I'm the founder, president, and head coach of Crimson Coaching, which provides academic tutoring, test prep for exams like the SAT, AP exams, and ACT, as well as others, and college counseling to students worldwide. That service includes college essay coaching. And this talk today is considering community college. Consider this before you go. So, welcome to today's talk. Just to give you a little bit more background about who I am once again the president and head coach of Crimson Coaching, which a lot of times people ask, why did you name your company after a color? Well, as you can see on the color of the mat of the class photograph and diploma behind me, that's the color crimson. And crimson is the color of my alma mater, Harvard. And because what I do is coach students to achieve their highest potential, I name my company Crimson Coaching. What we'll be doing today is trying to help students decide what setting might be right for them after graduation, whether that is a 2-year college, or perhaps it's work, or perhaps a 4-year college, because many times students in community or who are considering community college or sort of don't know whether they should go to that 4-year or go straight into work. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what should you be thinking about to decide if a community college is right for you. Before we go any further, I would just like to thank the Sachem Public Library for sponsoring today's talk, Laura Panter, the young adult librarian at Sachem, for inviting me to deliver this talk, and to you for listening to it. So the doctor in Dr. P is a doctorate in history. And as a historian, I always like to share my sources with audiences. So first, I will share with you that at the occasion of my 25th reunion from Harvard, I did attend a talk by the undergraduate director of admissions, William Fitzsimmons, who did give families there, graduates who had students maybe applying to college soon, some tips for them. So I'll pass them along to you. In addition, I was a teacher for more than 10 years. I started on Long Island teaching at Great Neck North High School, and I finished up my career full-time teaching high school in 2014 at Scarsdale High School in Westchester. Along the way, I taught all 4 grades at Horace Mann School. And so I really have a deep understanding of the teenage brain, so to speak. And so some of that goes into the advice I'll be giving parents and students today. But of course, the bulk of it comes from my experience as the head coach of Crimson Coaching, where I've helped students get into schools such as Princeton, Stanford, my own alma mater, but as well as more perhaps less well-known schools like St. Joe's in Philadelphia, where one student earned a full ride. Finally, I do try to keep abreast of the current research in college admissions. And so I highly recommend Jeffrey Salingo's book, Who Gets In and Why? A Year Inside College Admissions. Despite the fact that this book was published 4 years ago, it remains really current and I think is really a must read for any family considering any type of college for their child. In addition, The Price You Pay for College by Ron Lieber, Salingo's colleague at the New York Times, who writes a personal finance column, really goes, even though the title is The Price You Pay for College, goes beyond much more than just price in terms of considerations that students and their families want to make. So let's look at what the options for post-high school graduation are for students and what the main pros and cons are of each of those options. So you could go straight into the workplace or perhaps even acquire an apprenticeship, and we'll be speaking with, I have a pre-recorded video from somebody who runs an apprenticeship program on Long Island. The advantages of that are, of course, you get immediate money, right? And you get immediate professional experience. However, income advancement in the future may sort of reach a ceiling because many of those raises will come only to students with a bachelor's or even a master's. You could not do any work or school by taking a gap year or maybe an unpaid internship. The advantage of that is that you could gain valuable work experience and professional connections, which would be great. But some of these programs do require fees and they could be expensive. You could go to a 2-year college, a community college, which is what really the main focus of today's talk will eventually be, I promise. And if done correctly, and we'll talk about what that is in a little bit, it could be less expensive than a 4-year school. And you would be in good company. 30% of all undergraduates in the United States are at 2-year colleges. And I happen to teach at a 2-year college myself at Bronx Community College, which is part of the City University of New York system. So that's another set of professional experiences that I bring to today's talk. Of course, a 4-year college is often more expensive at the outset, but as we'll talk in a little bit, if you start at a 2-year and don't pick your courses really mindfully, you could wind up having to do 6 years to get a bachelor's, in which case a 4-year college from the get-go might actually not be as expensive as starting at a 2-year college. And for long-term advancement, not short-term, but long-term professional income, it looks the best for those with a bachelor's degree. But regardless of where you are right now, it is important to know of the job outlook for that's sort of coming down the pike. So within the next 10 years, by 2031, there will be 35 million jobs opening up. 30% will be available to people with no college who just have a high school degree. 30% will be middle skills jobs that require more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's. So that might be community college grads. And then 40% will demand a bachelor's or a graduate degree. But that looks really great, I think, for community college students, right? If you just want to go for that 2-year degree, almost 1/3 of job offerings within the next 10 years will be you'll be perfectly suited for. So if you're considering working instead of, or maybe even during college, I have some tips from a career counselor for you. Amy Geffen is the head of Geffen Careers, and if you like what she says, you can contact her there. She's got some tips on what you might do
Hello,
during.
my name is Amy Geffen, and I'm a career coach, and I'm going to give you some tips today for your job search. Number one, you need to join a professional organization or association for your profession. Everyone knows if you're a lawyer, you belong to the American Bar Association. If you're a nurse, you belong to the American Nurses Association. If you have a profession, you need to join the organization. It will provide you with events, conferences, free information, and resources. Tip number two, expand your network. Start with the people you know, your friends, your family, former classmates, former teachers. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Build relationships. Stay in touch. They can give you career advice and tell you where there are jobs available. Tip number three, get a job in advance of going for a full-time job. You may wish to get a summer job or a summer internship, whether it's paid or unpaid. You may want to bag groceries at the local Trader Joe's or CVS. You may wish to work at a hospital as a volunteer, a candy striper. It's very important to show that you have some real work experience on your resume, not just having gone to school. Thank you very much. This has been Amy Geffen from Geffen Careers.
So those are great tips, whether you want to go directly into the workforce or you'd like to go to college, but maybe also work in addition to your college, which many students of mine actually do. Now we'll hear from Mike Tedesco about apprenticeships.
Hello. We are here today to discuss a career path alternative that does not require college. More focused on training programs that last anywhere from 1 year to 5 years in length, is nationally recognized, very similar to college transcripts, but is truly your first step in your career ladder of success. My name is Michael Tedesco, president of Apprenticeship Connections, and I am a workforce development consultant that specializes in implementing focused and formalized training programs to help develop and grow companies' workforce. Most people have never heard of this before, but I'm referring to registered apprenticeship programs. A registered apprenticeship program is taking any individual, regardless of their age, new hire, or an incumbent worker, and teaching them a skill or trade. It is including on-the-job training as well as classroom education. When I say on-the-job training, this is time-based. It could be anywhere from 2,000, 4,000 hours, if not more, and you are truly guaranteed a wage progression so that earn while you learn. If you work hard, you get rewarded. Then you take into factor the related instruction or classroom education. That classroom education is paid for by the employer. It can be done online, at a SUNY university, or a local vocational school, all paid for by the employer. So you could be hired by a company, go through a 3-year training program with a guaranteed wage increase and a college education paid for by the employer. Yes, this is true. And this is in so many different industries. There's about 170 different apprenticeship programs in New York State alone: construction, manufacturing, health and human services, hospitality. Again, the options are endless. Again, apprenticeship programs. For an apprentice, you get a full-time job with a guaranteed wage progression, on-the-job training, as well as post-secondary education. If you want to find out more, please contact me. My website is www.accc, that's 3 C's, nys.org, or I can be reached at 516-457-8037. Thank you and good luck.
Sounds great, right? So again, if you're on the fence between work and community college, maybe an apprenticeship might be right for you. Other questions to consider and how the answers should steer you are contained in Ron Lieber's book that I mentioned before, The Price You Pay for College. And I highly recommend, in particular, if you only have time to read one of the 2 books and you're thinking about community college, this is the book that I would read. Okay. The other Salingo's book is quite good as well, but there are more issues related to community college in Lieber's book than in Salingo's book. So I think you really need to ask yourself, first of all, what do I want to get out of college? And Lieber asks, or kind of characterizes the questions you should be asking into 3 buckets. 1, do I want my mind blown? 2, am I going to find my tribe, meaning the person maybe that I'll marry, or the people who will be my lifelong friends? Or 3, do I want to get trained to do a job and advance economically? Now, realistically, most people, especially people who are going for 4-year schools, want to do all 3. But you really should do some soul searching to see what's most important for me. What do I really want to get out of college? And keep in mind that if you want your mind blown, when you split your undergraduate experience into 2, meaning at a community college and at a 4-year school, it makes it harder to find your tribe or have your mind blown, because those are things that generally rely on relationships. And if you only have 2 years to build those relationships, it may be very difficult to do that. So the best candidate for community college is then somebody who's really looking to save money if they do it right, advance economically, and get trained to do a job. So you should fall into that last bucket. Now, if you decide that a 4-year college isn't right for you, let's think about why a 2-year college might be right for you. Well, of course, most people think about saving money, right? You will definitely save money on your tuition in the short term, as well as room and board, right? Because most likely you're living at at home, whether that home is with mom and dad or on your own. If you're uncertain about academic options and you want to take a little bit of psychology, maybe you want to take an accounting course, a little bit of everything, that's also another perhaps great time to do that. Um, if you feel like you need the emotional support of home, as well as potentially any kind of physical support or health related support, that also might be another reason why a 2-year college living in a home might be right. Um, and for my own students, I can tell you that they are often students who have their own children, who have full-time jobs, and being able to take courses, they're at community colleges. I think that there are probably a wider variety of modalities of courses, meaning online synchronous, online asynchronous, not every 4-year liberal arts college has these variety of modalities of courses that emerged during COVID. Many of them got rid of them once the COVID pandemic sort of ended last year. So it's if you are a person who needs a lot of flexibility, a community college might be right for you. And then full disclosure, I will admit, I asked my cousin's son, who attended Suffolk County Community College, what he saw as the benefit of attending community college was, and he said, having a car, that he had more of a life outside of campus than most of his friends who went away to school did. But the flip side of that, of course, that you're giving up is that it's then more challenging to find the more sort of traditional activities of a traditional college experience, like the big football game that everybody goes to on Saturdays, right? That may not happen at community college. So if a student knows they don't want to work, but they're really not sure if they should go away or stay home, even after considering those questions that I just and those characteristics that I just mentioned, Eileen Duraris, a certified life coach specifically for 17 to 29-year-olds, has some considerations for you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eileen Duraris. I'm a certified life coach for young adults between the ages of 17 and 29. And what I do is I help them learn more about themselves, develop more confidence and clarity so they can figure out direction as to what it is they want to do next in life, whether it's going to college, getting a job, figuring out their major, or just learning more about themselves so they can feel more prepared for their future. So one question that I'm often asked is, how do I know if my young adult is ready to go away to school? Good question. And what I would tell you to focus on is your young adult's independence. How much can they do for themselves? So in terms of self-care, do they eat well? Can they do their own laundry? Can they wake up by themselves? If they take medication, can they do that on their own? And if they're sick, would they know to go to health services? Also, my other question is, how resilient are they? If an issue pops up and things are difficult, how quick do they bounce back? What types of things do they do to help themselves through the tough times? Do they journal? Do they work out? Can they talk to a friend? So how quick can they bounce back when stuff gets tough? and also managing themselves throughout the school itself. How do they do when it comes to group projects? Are they able to keep up with that? If they have a question for their professor, would they feel comfortable going up to the professor to ask for help? When roommates, and I'm going to say when because it's real life, when roommate issues arise, do they have the communication skills that they need in order to be able to manage that? Listen, I don't want you to think that going away to college is smooth sailing regardless. Everyone's going to have issues. It's normal, it's real life. So sit down with your young adult, come to a conclusion together of whether you feel and they feel it's time to go away. Most importantly, I want to tell you, don't assume that just because you see everyone else going away to school, that it's time for your young adult to go away as well. I made that mistake with my young adult who went away to school, and I thought she was supposed to just like everyone else, and she had a very difficult time. So go with your gut. Figure out what it is, what you really think. And remember that whenever your young adult does decide to go away or go to college, you're not going to be behind if you don't do it exactly at the same time as everyone else. There's always ample opportunity to learn independence before they go away. Please be kind to yourself as the parent and be kind to your young adult and patient, and it's all going to work out okay. Thank you for listening.
So that's great advice, I think, from Eileen there. So let's just dive a little bit deeper into some of the statistics about a 2-year degree versus a 4-year degree. So if you look at this, and granted, this was about a year and a half ago, this was from the Chronicle of Higher Education in April of 2022, we see that bachelor degrees, in terms of the unemployment rate for people aged 20 to 29, bachelor degrees, really this dotted red line, have kind of been up and down, right? And however, since the pandemic, October of 2020, associate degrees unemployment rates, so that's really important to think there, as well as advanced degree recipients unemployment rates went way down. So that's really great news, and those trends really have changed very little since then. So if somebody's wondering, will I be the only one attending community college? You might want to think about that. Community college enrollments have been declining. I have seen that in my own college, for example. But the good news means that it'll be easier for you to get in because community college really needs students. The bad news of that is that if the enrollment is sharply declined, classes may be cut. And if you're relying on community college as a cost-saving measure towards eventually a 4-year degree, it may be difficult to get the classes that you need to transfer and then eventually graduate in 4 years, okay? So really keep that in mind, and I certainly would investigate before I enrolled at a 2-year school whether the courses needed for my eventual degree at a 4-year school will be offered in the years I need them to be offered, okay? Because not every course is offered every year. Also, for any of you who are current, maybe high school freshmen, sophomores, or juniors who are thinking about dual enrolling into community college programs while you're in high school, you should know that they are generally not seen as rigorous academically as AP programs or IB programs. So if you have the choice to either do a dual enrollment community college or an AP, and you're looking to get into a highly selective school, I will always recommend doing AP or IB. So this next slide is a little bit text heavy. It's all from the price you pay for college, but the advice was so important that I really thought it worthwhile sharing for those of you who might want to read the book but just don't have the time. So this is from the chapter called Community College Will Save You Money, but What You Might Lose. So Lieber writes, starting an undergraduate career at a community college can be a terrific hack. But for it to save a large amount of money without sacrificing potentially important parts of the college experience, students need to develop a plan that is close to perfect before they even begin to start. So yeah, that means that you need to be thinking about where you're getting your 4-year degree before you even enroll in community college, if you're looking at it as a money-saving adventure, okay? He goes on to write, let's dispense with the idea that spending 2 years at a community college before transferring to a 4-year school will be a breeze. At the Community College Research Center, part of Columbia's Teachers College, a 2016 study of more than 700,000 students, it's almost 1 million students, who had started community college in 2007, found that just 14% of them had transferred to a 4-year school and graduated within 6 years. So can you imagine what the 4-year graduation rate is? It's even lower. In some states, students had done better, but even in those states, only 18% of enrollees had gotten their bachelor's degree. So, I mean, this really speaks to having a clear idea of the direction you're heading before you set out on that journey. So to make sure that the 2 years at community college do save money in the long run, you need to find a transfer admissions representative and a faculty member in your intended major department at the 4-year school you plan on enrolling in, and verify before you register for classes every semester at the community college which courses will transfer and will eventually be accepted by the department in which you plan to major. Now, if you're doing any community college, like Nassau or Suffolk, and you're going to SUNY, there are hammered out what they're called articulation agreements that make this more transparent. But if you're hoping to go to a 2-year college like Suffolk and then a private school, you really need to do all of this legwork on your own. Also, if you happen to be funneled into lots of remedial courses, consider getting the instruction that you need elsewhere if you really need it, or ask to prove your knowledge through an exam if you believe that you have that knowledge, because those courses can also, sometimes they're not free, you need to pay for those remedial courses, and they're going to set you back in your long-term plan to graduate in 4 years, if that's what your plan is. So if you're going from a 2-year college to a 4-year college, remember that you'll need to fill out the Common App when and if you transfer, okay? And there's a special part of the Common App, which is an online portal that applications go through, where you will fill out a transfer application, okay? And you might also be able to do this through a community-based organization that might be able to help you with that Common App application. Be sure to ask your community college advisor before you even enroll, before you give them a cent of your money, what percentage of the people who start here end up with a bachelor's degree in 4 years. They are supposed to track that information. How about the percentage who get a 4-year degree within 6 years or 10? Where do the majority of the people who do transfer end up? If those schools don't match the kind of school you want to go to, that's a red flag that maybe you shouldn't go to that community college. Then ask for all the details about the college's articulation agreements. Again, these are agreements. I know for a fact The community colleges on Long Island have these agreement with SUNY, where if you take X, Y, and Z courses, they will transfer and you get the credit. But again, they may have agreements with other private schools, especially if they're private schools that are local. So ask about which colleges the community college has articulation agreements with, and then ask to see them. Ask your advisor if there are 8 or 12 or 16 classes that I need to take to finish community college and to get out in 2 years. What quirks might I run into? Is this only offered every third semester or every second semester? Are there classes that fill up fast, and how can I get into them so that I'm registered in time? Are there classes that are offered only in certain semesters or at certain times? By the way, to go back to this one, if you're able to get into the honors college, usually at Suffolk, for example, and I'm sure Nassau is the same way, you're usually able to get first dibs on registering. So that's super important. Should you be registering for those hard to get classes first and then build the rest of your schedule around them? These are all questions to ask, okay? But to have a successful college experience anywhere, especially at a 2-year school, it's not just about the classes. It's also about your experience with others. And that really means that you need to find a mentor. The mentor doesn't have to be a professor. It could be a student who's a year or two above you. And it could also be a counselor, but it could also be a coach, an advisor of a club. All of these people can help show you the ropes. The other way that you're going to have a happy and successful experience at a community college will be by getting involved in the life of that college. Don't leave right after classes end, right? And the advice about coaches and club advisors kind of talks about that, okay? Get involved in clubs and sports, maybe even fraternities and sororities. Form study groups, take the initiative. I know in my community college class, even though it's online, students always form a WhatsApp group where they can study together. Maybe if you do get a part-time job, look for a part-time job on campus. Have meals there, exercise at the gym there. These are all ways that you can build your network of other students from that school. And it's oftentimes those personal connections that may get you your first job, okay? Finally, if you have a chance to join a learning cohort, sometimes they put students together, and I know at Bronx Community College, they call them first year seminars, where they put students together in 2 or 3 of the same classes, so they go through those classes together. That's an amazing way to build these connections. Studies show that that no matter where you go, whether you go to community college or whether you go to Harvard, if you do these 2 things, you can be very successful. Finally, once you're at that 4-year school and you have the opportunity, try to live on campus. That is also going to fully immerse you in the life of that school in a way that, you may find other juniors and seniors by that point are living off campus. But that's because they spent their first 2 years probably living on campus and they already have all their friends. If you didn't do that if you were at community college, so make sure that you live on campus when you transfer. So those are really all the tips that I have for you today. If you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to attend future webinars by signing up for my newsletter that comes out just once a month, I promise, at crimsoncoaching.com/newsletter. You can email me at info@crimsoncoaching.com to receive my tips on studying at a community college. And also, you can just email me there to ask any questions you might have about today's talk. And also, importantly, if you think that I may be able to help you either with test prep, tutoring, or college counseling, I do give half-hour complimentary consultations. So you can email me there to get that consultation set up. And then finally, you can go to youtube.com/Crimson Coaching to see other pre-recorded webinars like this related to adolescent education and the college admissions process. I have probably about 24 talks there, as well as a 10-week mini course on getting your Common App done. So if you're a transfer student needing to finish your Common App, you want to check that out. So once again, thank you to Sachem Public Library for sponsoring today's talk, to Laura Panter for inviting me to deliver it, and to all of you for attending today's talk. I wish you lots of luck, whether it's at work, in an apprenticeship, in a 2-year college, or a 4-year college. Bye.